Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. Grab your popcorn, grab your drink, your beverage of choice. Glass of red wine would be nice, right? Get you, don't forget the Kool-Aid for the kids. Call your neighbor, call your friends, call your auntie, call your nenen, call your mama and your papa, your grandmama and your grandpapa, your nieces and your nephews. Let them all know that Simon Says is on. Buckle up. We'll be right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back. Welcome back. Just some quick little updates that we're going to develop them later on. And I'm speaking about one, the launch of Peter David's party, and that it is Peter David's party, the DPM. Uh, the launch was on Sunday, and so I didn't have the space to fit them in this week, but I'll do a piece on it for you next week. That it's interesting because all of a sudden it's okay to hand an individual a party. So we'll talk about that next week. 15 vehicles, 15 double cab pickup trucks were brought in by the government of Grenada for the parliamentarians. At this stage, when we have no debushing program, our roads are in a mess, our projects are stalled because of money, and the two or one or two that are in process, they are struggling, right? The school feeding program for this new term and the new school year, which started in September, is already in trouble. Parents have to start sending their children with food in some instances in some schools already. We have no primary health care. Our hospitals are in a mess without equipment, materials, nurses and doctors. You just name it. They're like big clinics. Um, we have one, 2.5 ambulances, maybe. We have one, 2.5 uh, fire trucks, right? We probably could have put a fire truck in every parish. I wouldn't go as far as saying every constituency, but every parish needs its own fire truck, right? The fire trucks for Carriacou and Petit Martinique that the former administration had on order. Nobody knows where it went. What happened to that? The minister for Carriacou and Petit Martinique himself at a parliament sitting stood up and said that there were already a fire truck on the way for, I think that one was for Petit Martinique, and then he was getting fire trucks for Carriacou. Where are they? But instead, we buying campaign vehicles for, of course, the MPs, for the incumbent, but they want to guise that by buying 15, right? And I am pleased to announce that the opposition are refusing to take it. And people are seeing it for what it's worth. There are several things, as I listed there, than just a few, that we need in this country. Our infrastructure is in a terrible state, right? Then the government of Grenada, they had a retroactive ribbon cutting for the Bernay Bridge. That bridge, it was in use from April 2025, handed over, and in use from April 2025. But this week, they had ribbon cutting. In the same manner, they had a few weeks ago, they had ribbon cutting on Lambert Bridge. They replaced a couple of pieces of pipe through that goes through the bridge, and four um, caretakers, ministers, whatever you want to call them, from St. Patrick, from St. Andrew, I'm sorry, for the government, they had a ribbon cutting ceremony on Lambert Bridge. Desperation, desperation. Desperate times calls for desperate measures, and they're grabbing at straw. As a matter of fact, I think straw is too strong for them now. It's air they're grabbing at. The parents, guardians, and students of Tamsisi from Carriacou and Petit Martinique who were affected by beryl and were promised $2,000 per student per month. And for 10 months, the monies have not been coming. It stopped way before the 10-month period. And they were also told that it was going to continue after the 10 months. But they have not been receiving the monies. The children are in Grenada. They have to pay room and board. They have to eat. They have to go to school. They have to get stuff for school and clothing, everything. And their parents are left with the burden, and some of which are in Carriacou trying to put their lives back to order there as well. And so they are struggling, and they're asking the government if they could keep up the end of that bargain, that arrangement that they had made to pay the families for the students whilst they're in Grenada here, and they are still here on mainland Grenada. Don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. The education is your number one pillar, or one of your number one pillar, because every time you speak, your pillars seem to change, right? But lately, education, education, education. Just talk the talk, walk the walk, walk the walk. Folks, the Dangote kits, branded kits, was distributed to schools throughout the island over the past few weeks ago. It's, as a matter of fact, from Thursday, October the 30th, and Friday, October the 31st. Um, these kits, these Dangote branded kits, were handed out to our babies in some instances. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, according to a release dated October the 17th, 2024, left Grenada to attend a forum in Rwanda scheduled to take place from the 9th to the 11th of October 2024, where he never made it. However, he never made it to Rwanda. Then we found out he was in Nigeria visiting Aliko Dangote, the richest African man, and he traveled there with his executive secretary, as usual, and his friend and colleague then, Teddy St. Louis. It was from there we found out, when he came back and was asked, well, what capacity was Teddy St. Louis in Nigeria with you? It was then we found out that Teddy St. Louis was our new chief of staff to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister stated that in discussions with Dangote, he mentioned the Joy Cricket School in Laurelland, St. David, his constituency. He said, and I quote, in speaking to Dangote and explaining what we are doing, he agreed, and then and there called the owners of an Indian Premium League team, who incidentally owns a team in the CPL and a team in Bangladesh, in the Bangladesh League, and said, I want 1,000 cricket kits. This is Dangote to the Indians. He further announced that the kits were being manufactured, after which will be delivered to Grenada. Therefore, the kits were branded after being manufactured in India. The kits were branded with the Dangote stickers, huge ones. He in a message to some tiny tots while delivering Dangote kits to them. Here is the Minister of Education, David Andrew.
Our tremendous thanks to Mr. Aliko Dangote for presenting Grenada with 1,000 cricket kits like those. He loves our people, and so he made a contribution to Grenada to support the development of cricket and can earn millions of dollars from playing sports. But you have to be disciplined, you have to practice, you have to be fit. You can't sit down and not exercise. You can't sit down and not get involved in physical activity in schools. So we are hoping that this donation encourages more of you to get involved in sports. Size and you're not moving enough, and you're not acting enough, and you're not doing enough activities. So we're encouraging, Madam Principal, we're encouraging the teachers, and we're encouraging all of you to get involved in physical activities so that we can be more healthy. And so these kits encourage you. In each kit you'll find a bag, you'll find some padding materials, you'll find other supplies for gloves, and there's a training kit for the coach. The long one is for the coach, whoever the coach is. Who's the coach for the cricket team? So the coaches are out on a workshop. So there's one for the coach, and there are 5 other kits. And we hope that that encourages you. Again, thanks to Mr. Aliko Dangote for his donation, and we hope this continues to benefit the school and encourage physical activity and sport. So at this point, let me hear your name. What's your name? John. Right. For the university. Your experience.
Mr. Dangote, he loves our people. Right back to Massa days. Poor babies. Just look at the little tiny tots that they give in these big bags. I think it probably was just for show. I don't believe it was that's who collecting these kits, but anyway. So what do we have to show from our Prime Minister and his many expensive visits globally? Between June 2022 and October 2025, the Prime Minister has departed Grenada for overseas visit approximately 51 times, which equates to about 2 trips per month, with an estimated 408 days spent abroad, roughly 1/3 of his time in office. In addition, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell has spent over 50% of his monthly working days, about 11 out of 22 days per month, outside of the country. Outside of the country. When the Prime Minister is out of the in country, important government work slows down. In other words, productivity slows down. As you know, it's only one actor in the movie, right? Decisions that needs his approval, such as signing of our projects, coordinating between ministries, and monitoring how public money is spent, often get disturbed. And what do we have to show? 1,000 cricket kits from Aliko Dangote, a private businessman who begged for the kits from a friend and business associate. 20 MOUs and a promise of 30 nurses. Oh, and a failed try of direct flights from Guyana to Grenada. The flight was discontinued. It was non-profitable, but we know that, right? We could have told him that. The ones from Africa would be the same. Question for the Prime Minister and his delegation. Where are you with the honey discussion, which was brought to CARICOM by Grenada? You know, you travel all the time and you hear the Prime Minister doing so much. There are things that was started, was put into motion, wheels that was put into motion before 2022, and we hear nothing about it. There's a discussion on of our honey being banned from Trinidad and Tobago, right? It seems that has fallen off the radar. Trinidad has banned on importation of honey from Grenada, right? The previous administration brought it to CARICOM as a proposal to request Trinidad to remove the ban and other requirements. All that was needed to happen was for Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell and his administration to follow up on what was already set into motion. The government, of course, we say it all the time and we hear it all the time, is a continuum. We need an update as to where negotiations are. What did you do as CARICOM chairman besides put up form or make a CARICOM around the boat and plant some fig trees that you then had to cut down? What did you do as the chairman of CARICOM? Waste of money building a CARICOM around the boat while the fig trees eventually fell. Where is Grenada with the attempt to get the removal of the restriction of the ban on honey? We're asking on behalf of the people, right? What concrete proposal have Grenada tabled? What has Grenada brought that will show that Grenada has had interest in piloting, not just saying me too and jumping in on another country's proposal, but piloting, in all your many travels at the OECS CARICOM and international travels, what proposals has Grenada piloted? We're being told that the Prime Minister needs to travel to get resources for Grenada. Well, we need a report of the proposals and the meetings they were made at. These proposals were made at. How much did Grenada attract, or what has Grenada attracted in the 3.5 years since in office? Tell us what Grenada, what concrete proposals that you have tabled and can demonstrate that the Prime Minister and his delegation that travels in these big delegations, sometimes as much as 13 of them traveling together. What are the value for our monies? What is the benefit? And what is the cost? Because really, you don't need to travel with this big delegation, right, to get benefits. Delegation of 9, 6. There is something called opportunity cost of money. What could those millions of dollars, what could it have done for us? Our healthcare, our schools, our children, our roads, our infrastructure. In other words, the money spent on travel could have been spent otherwise. If according to the data, you traveled 51 times, what did you bring back that will demonstrate Grenada's piloting a proposal? Something we led and championed previously, not just saying me too or joining in on another country's proposal. The amount of 51 travel, it doesn't even sound correct. For instance, according to the data, we've seen there's only one travel to Dubai, one trip to Dubai. When we all know that there was trips to Dubai. I guess the ones that were put down on paper, maybe, because sometimes he leaves here and they don't say where he's going, or we don't even know he left, right? There's not always a release telling us that the prime minister is out of the island, right? Last week, for instance, he traveled, we did not know, or 2 weeks ago it might have been already, right? And he was in Florida. We knew that, but there was no release telling us that. And from Florida, he went to Colombia. So there was a release from telling us from Florida to Colombia that he traveled to Colombia. Now, according to Dr. Justin Pierre's data, the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, has been in office for 1,215 days. He has been away from Grenada for 408 days and out of office for 807 days. He stayed on island 807 days, right? But only visited his office 324 days. So what happened? What did he do for the next 483 days? They were unaccounted for. And then he's talking about the opposition who protested and did not show up for Parliament on the 4th of November, that they must come to work for their money. Now, I can name a few proposals that the former administration spearheaded. For instance, the elimination of more than 90% roaming charges on cell phones, the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, the development space and the development funding for manufacturing sectors such as software, drinks, beer, fruits, paints, CARICOM Petroleum Fund, climate change, and climate finance funding. Grenada is now lagging behind these days. Huge entourage, no impact, just having a grand time. And this is what we must say nothing about. We must shut up. The Prime Minister is traveling. 20 MOUs, 1,000 cricket bats. That's all we have to show. Cricket sets, I should say kits, right? That's all we have to show. A full-time supporter and defendant of this political party, the NDC, and the political leader and prime minister of Grenada, Mr. Deacon Mitchell, Mr. Ricky Pierre, played a clip where the Honorable Emmeline Pierre, leader of the NNP party, political leader, spoke facts. She spoke at a meeting on the Prime Minister's utterances in the Parliament, saying that they're being paid for coming to Parliament and they're not showing up. That's the same protest. It was a protest, right? So they did not show up. Now, the member for St. David went to Parliament, and as we used to say when he growing up, an expatiate, right? Let's hear what he had to say.
So they're getting the $5,000 a month and they're not coming to work. That's the example they set.
The political leader of the NNP, in a pocket meeting, in that particular pocket meeting, answered to the member for St. David.
Could you imagine that the Prime Minister, in his own word, referred to the wanton disregard and neglect for the job that we were elected to do? I was like, really? Is this man for real? Because I say to you tonight, if there's anybody that has neglected their job since July 2022, it would be the Prime Minister of this country. Brothers and sisters, we are all aware of the published analysis of the Prime Minister's performance since then. It shows us that he has taken 51 overseas trips since he was elected as Prime Minister. Nothing to show for those trips. Brothers and sisters, it tells us that the Prime Minister would have spent over 480 days overseas. Brothers and sisters, about 1/3 of the time that he has been elected as Prime Minister of this country. But what is worse, brothers and sisters, this kind of reckless behavior would have cost the country over $6 million since he has been elected as Prime Minister. And I say to you, $6 million would have done so much for the people of St. John's, for the people of Grand Roy, those who have housing needs, those with medical needs, children who have to go to school. $6 million would have made a significant dent, not just in St. John's, but I say in the entire western corridor of this country. But people don't care. They don't care one bit about these people who they represent. Brothers and sisters, talking about kettle telling pot bottom black. Well, that is a perfect example, brothers and sisters. We not doing our jobs. I say tonight, had it not been for this team doing their job today we would have had a law that would have reduced the age for civil legal responsibility in this country as low as 12 years old. It is because we are doing our job. This bill cannot even come back to the Parliament yet. And tonight we say it will never come back in its current form. Brothers and sisters, talking about who not doing their job, the analysis shows that the worst performing ministries in this country are headed by the Prime Minister of this country. What a shame, because you are supposed to be leading by example. What a shame.
Now, Mr. Ricky Pariag wrote, and I'm quoting, "I've noticed your recent phrase for the meeting with His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Issa Abu Sahab, the United Arab Emirates ambassador. And he is speaking there of photos posted by the opposition leader of her and her meeting with the ambassador." He continued, "which came about because of the Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell's recent travels. While I'm happy to see diplomatic opportunities for Grenada, I can't help but recall your earlier criticism of the Prime Minister's trip abroad. And that's what you just heard there, the video you just saw of the leader, the political leader, and the member for St. Andrew Southeast speaking on the Prime Minister's travel. He continued, "It seems a bit contradictory to condemn his travels when you now celebrating a meeting that resulted from it." Meaning the Prime Minister's travels brought the ambassador to Grenada, or brought us an ambassador for the UAE to Grenada, right? I am sure you'll agree that the constituency helps maintain public trust, especially when we all share the same goal of advancing our national interests. And he ended by saying, "Emmeline, be careful, little mouth, what you say." And it was the end of his quote. Now, any little mouth who be careful here is the writer of that nonsense, Mr. Ricky Parrier. First of all, Grenada and the United Arab Emirates have had diplomatic relations since 1975. And therefore, it could not have been Deacon Mitchell in recent times, Mr. Parrier. It could not have been. In 2012, October 2012, Prime Minister Tillman Thomas led a delegation to the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, for an official visit that included attending the World Energy Forum. While there, he engaged in bilateral discussions on issues of mutual interest to both Grenada and the UAE. The visit was an invitation of the president of the UAE with the goal of fostering bilateral relations. On November the 28th, 2017, in a press release, the UAE ambassador to the UN presented credentials as non-resident ambassador to Grenada under the Prime Ministership of the Right Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell. Lana Nursi Bear, the UAE's permanent representative to the United Nations in New York, has submitted her credential as non-resident ambassador to Grenada to the country's Governor General, Dame Cecile Lagranade, at her residence in Grenada's capital, St. George's. If you look on your screen, you see a photo of Dame Cecile and the ambassador. The former NNP administration had arrangement with the UAE, right? The UAE ambassador to Grenada. It is always the person representing the UAE at the UN. Now, no matter the defense, the fact of the matter is, and it with data to show, that Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell traveled 51 times in 3 years, a total of 408 days out of his 1,215 days in office outside of Grenada. And of the 807 days left, he only showed up to work 324 of those days. The question remains, vex if you want, what happened to the next 483 days? Is he just in on the hill at Mount Cinnamon enjoying the view, right? So there's no point in trying to justify what the Prime Minister does. The Prime Minister claimed that he going out there, he is the one that's marketing Grenada. He is the main promoter of Grenada. He said it on to the point.
So as the Prime Minister of the country, it is my job to be the chief advocate for the beautiful tri-island state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And the only way to do that is to leverage me and the office of the Prime Minister to ensure that we can get investors, we can get people interested and talking about Grenada. So with all due respect to the Grenada Tourism Authority and all the advertising, I am the biggest seller of Grenada. So when I go to Nigeria, I'm representing Grenada. Nigerians who never heard of Grenada would have heard of me as the Prime Minister. They would have recognized that I met with perhaps one of the most, if not the most influential person, not just in Nigeria, in Africa, in the black world. And the attention that has brought to Grenada is what you will see following therefrom. So when
What a crock. Nigerian businesswoman Aisha hosted her birthday party here in Grenada with over 200 guests from Africa, influential businessmen and women, as well as 4 governors from Africa. 6 private jets landed at the Morris Bishop International Airport for the occasion. And Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell knew nothing of it until he was invited to the party. He attended the official party on Calavini Island, and that was before he made his maiden trip to Nigeria. Remember that runaway trip to visit Dangote? Now, those 200 plus Africans, how did they get here? How did they get here without knowing anything of the Prime Minister or him knowing them? They spent 2 weeks on island. 2 weeks on island. He did not know any of them before that. And that's where he met Aisha and the governor of Lagos at Aisha's birthday party. And later on, at the 3rd Afri-Exim Forum in the Bahamas, he was introduced to Dangote by Aisha and the president of the Afri-Exim Bank. The guy is suffering from delusions and arrogance with what the people want to know, Prime Minister, is how many diplomatic passport you sold to Africans. How many? And how much did they pay for the passport? Rumor has it 250,000 USD. What is worse, my good friend Randall Robinson replied to Pariag's comment, thanking him, and I quote, "Brother, thank you. They believe people aren't paying attention. Paying attention to what he's saying is wrong." Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell did not bring the United Arab Emirates to Grenada. He cannot take credit for that as one of his achievements of travels. I have to tell you, my friend, that we are paying attention. We are paying attention to the travels of not just the Prime Minister, but of the rest of his cabinet and of the technocrats like you, Mr. Robinson, Randall Robinson. We are paying attention to that. The opposition has been asking for data. Bring it to the people. Bring it in the parliament, like Prime Minister Mia Motley did when her opposition complained about her travels? Why hide it from the people? The truth needs no defense. Here is Prime Minister Mia Mottley in the parliament speaking to the people of Barbados.
I have done the total, and in 7 years, the total amount comes to just about 1.457 million across 93 trips, with an average of $15,000 per trip, Mr. Speaker. I don't travel first class. I go at the last possible minute and return at the earliest possible minute. I do not stay in luxury suites, as was the wont of many a minister before this government came into office. And Mr. Speaker, everything is here. Attendance, look at all of them. If it isn't CARICOM meetings, it is the UN meetings. If it isn't the UN meetings, it is the COP meetings. If it isn't COP, it is individual meetings that require us security. On occasion, I have done 1 or 2 speeches. And Mr. Speaker, if I were only spending money, I wouldn't mind. You might curse me. That 1.45 million, you know what I asked the PS to prepare for me too, sir? What are the benefits in terms of grants that this government has gotten as a result of that travel? Mr. Speaker, would you believe that this government, and I'm going to be fair, because when the ministry prepared this, they included one figure that came at the beginning of 2018, and I don't have nothing to hide. So I told the minister, take that $27 million out. 27.6 million and 83,000. Take it out. So subtract that from $146,887,000 in grant money. Not loans. Mr. Speaker, you know what grant money is? It's free. When you walk out of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, fella, give me $20 there. That is free money.
And that is transparency and accountability. Don't just talk transparency and accountability, show it. That is transparency and accountability. Free money. Where is our free money? What free money you got for us, Prime Minister? Tell us. Tell us. Come to the people and explain your travels like Mia Mottley did. You're the visionary leader. You're the visionary leader. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, his most popular description, being visionary. According to the proclamation honoring Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell from the city of Lauderhill, in the 4th paragraph, it reads, and whereas under his visionary leadership, Grenada continues to advance towards a just, equitable, and progressive society. The operative word there being visionary. For 8 months from October 2021 leading up to the elections of June 23rd, 2022 and beyond, we've heard some wonderful, magical stories. Here is a lawyer. He's bright. The nation was bamboozled into believing manna will fall from heaven and milk and honey will flow in the streets. A powerful biblical image, primarily from the Old Testament, used to describe the promised land. Grenada was described as it's going to be the promised land. Grenada's both and being the promised land, both figuratively and literally. So let's take a look through the Prime Minister's visionary eyes. Let's hear what he was going to do for the farmers and to do with our fruits.
If I say to you
We can assist our farmers through GDB by getting loans that would allow them to either form cooperatives or to buy themselves by having chiller trucks with solar panels on them that goes around the island collecting their fruit and in turn driving around our various parishes to sell their fruit directly to us so that they eliminate the need for M&IB, so that they have longer storage and they can bring the fruit directly to you. Would you call that a pie in the sky dream? So it's as simple as that. If I say to you there are trucks that we use to go on the electricity pole, to go on the telephone pole, and these trucks probably finish work at 4 or 5 in the evening, and we can ask the owners of these same trucks to rent them or provide them for free to our farmers so that you can put them in the same bucket and you can go and pick the coconuts, you can go and pick the mango that is in the tall trees, you can go and pick the sapodillas, you can go and pick the guava, anything that you ordinarily would not be able to reach. And you can use these hydraulic trucks to pick the fruit rather than them falling on the ground. Or you can put netting at the bottom of our mango trees and probably use the same hydraulic trucks to shake the trees so that the mango falls and they're not falling on the ground and damaging. You will call that a pie in the sky idea? That's mango on your plate. That's golden apple on your plate. That's sugar apple on your plate. And the more of this we could get is the more we can do agro-processing. Because for us to do the agro-processing, we need to get the mangoes, the sapodillas, the guavas, the golden apples in large quantities, consistently, all the time. And we need to be able to preserve them so that they give us a longer shelf life. So these are not pie in the sky ideas.
So you mean to tell me that Grenadians voted for bucket trucks going up to the mountain to pick fruits? Huh? We still await the transformational agenda. And these days, in desperation, we're grabbing at anything. So the gift of cricket bats to Grenada by the richest African man, the billionaire Dangote, Aliko Dangote, that is transformation, they say. It didn't work out. That is the transformation. And if some of you supported the transformational agenda, and if you are true to yourselves, you will agree that it is over and it is time to move on. A better Grenada is possible. We were promised storage from farmers, for farmers rather, throughout the island.
Storage. Mr. Speaker, as we seek to increase production on all fronts, the need for the establishment of central storage centers will be necessary. This administration will answer the call by using 10 40-feet containers to assist in providing storage for farmers' produce. The containers will be retrofitted with solar panels to provide energy and will be located in different parishes throughout the length of Petite Martinique, Carriacou, and Grenada. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, private partnership will be pursued towards the development of cold storage facilities at the Maurice Bishop International Airport to boost export of fresh fish, fruits, and vegetables.
Now that is vision. That is vision. We were promised 500 affordable Grenadian-style houses a year.
Citizens of Grenada need hope. The young people need hope. The middle-aged citizens need hope. Or retirees need hope. But for tonight's purposes, our hope means homes our people enjoy. Homes our people enjoy. And so the commitment of the National Democratic Congress is to provide and assist in providing homes that our people can enjoy. So if we can now have the video.
Not reflect this.
It's a movie with only one actor. The emphasis is on Grenadian-style houses. And then in 2023 budget presentation by the then Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell and Minister of Finance announced an allocation of $2.5 million budgeted for 500 houses in Stony Gut, St. John.
Initiatives in this budget cycle include: 1. The Stony Gut Climate Resilient Housing Development Pilot Project, which aims to construct modern, high-quality, climate-resilient Grenadian-style homes in Stony Gut in the parish of St. John. Construction is expected to start in 2023, Mr. Speaker, and $2.5 million has been budgeted. Mr. Speaker.
Now, that didn't quite work out, right? So we went from Stony Gut, 500 a year, Grenadian-style houses, to 500 a year prefab houses, with a pilot project of 17 in Dunfermline, St. Andrew.
We recognize that housing is a big challenge in Grenada. There is a current housing repair program that the government is running to assist persons in housing repairs. But this program has its challenges and it has its limitations. But we are nonetheless going to continue because we recognize that in some instances people are in truly desperate circumstances and we need to cater to them. But the program is not sustainable. And in the long run, it isn't really improving the housing stock in a sustainable manner. The average person builds a home once in their lifetime, for the most part. Maybe twice if you have an extended, if you go past the 70. And we need to build homes that can sustain, endure, and resist things like the hurricanes, resist things like termites, etc., etc. So, I can't see the screen from here, so I'm not so sure if you have the right. So, we promised Project 500, and we intend to deliver Project 500.
So, a prefab house is more sustainable than a concrete house? Okay. The fact of the matter is, there goes our vision of Grenadian-style houses, right? So no more Grenadian-style houses. It was cheaper and faster to build prefab houses, right? I'm moving into our 5th year in office and not one Project 500 house to show. But here is the chairman of the Housing Authority.
Project 500, it's a government initiative to alleviate some of the stresses on the housing industry, to improve the housing stock. As you could appreciate, there's many reasons why persons are unable to build. It could be 1, the availability of land. 2, it could be just the cost of building. So combining the two, Project 500 seeks to be able to find land for persons by having large areas of land and developing a community. So what we're trying to do is to have small homes, bigger homes, so that you have a wide range of persons and affordable homes. So if your person was trying to do it on their own, they would not have been able to afford a type of home like that. The quality of homes are such that it would stand up to the hurricane code, the building codes that we have here in Grenada. So it's more resilient. We take into consideration also in Project 500 that climate is changing, and we will try to bring in at a lower level climate smart techniques and material to improve the quality of the home. So we're not just building a regular home, we would try to have it with solar and some other facilities, water storing the facilities and so on, that you would not normally find in a regular housing project of our kind. So that's the difference between what we have done in the past and now. So this in a nutshell is Project 500, but we have 4 elements to Project 500. The first element deals with, we call it category. So we say category A, where the government or housing authority has land already for that. And in this case, we're starting off with Dunfermline. That is housing authority's land. That is housing authority. It's been designated for homes for a lot of years now, and we already have a housing project up there. So we're just extending that area and using our land to put more homes. In that area, we have a test site that has started, and you would see it off the ground in terms of construction of the foundation during the month of October or towards the end of October. And should complete between December to January, depends on the speed. These are 17 homes. Okay. And from that, you would get, on the other side of the road, Housing Authority also have a further 15 acres, which we would develop and put probably about 75 units, individual homes, including 4 or 5 green spaces.
So there goes the vision of Project 500, okay? We were promised the regularization of all contract workers and Imani workers who were working for the government in 12 months.
Congress commits to regularizing the status of contract workers who are working for the government and Imani workers who are working for the government within 12 months of assuming office.
But in the heat of the night, we realized we couldn't fulfill that visionary promise. So we backpedaled.
We never said we would regularize the public service in 12 months. We said we would regularize it. And we have begun to do so.
But you said so. You said 12 in 12 months. You've heard it, right? I played the clip. But he also said that he can regularize contract workers. It didn't take much, just a stroke of a pen.
In that position. Right. And I'm saying the job of the citizens, of the government, is to fight for its citizens, to protect its citizens, to encourage its citizens to be independent, not dependent, not vulnerable. So that is the challenge we face. And I'm saying it is solvable by the stroke of a pen.
Yep.
And let me make this further point. It is actually illegal. The Employment Act clearly says that you cannot put someone on a fixed term contract, meaning these short term contracts, when the position they are filling is an indefinite one. So the government itself.
Yep. It was illegal, he said, to hire workers on contract. But that didn't work out so well. So he again thought he'd mislead the nation.
When people want to make mischief, they're going around and saying, you say a stroke a pen, you can regularize everybody, you stroke a pen, regularize everybody. I never said that. I said there should be one public service. And I will say it again, there should be one public service.
You just heard him say he could regularize by the stroke of a pen. And then he said he didn't say that. Of course he said he wants one public service. And what that meant, all fall under the 1958 pension plan. That one public service regularizes everybody, and we have one public service. But before that came the excuses that we cannot pay the pension and regularize all public service.
The regularization is focused on the several hundreds, if not thousands, of other persons who do not have those things. And the point that I think Pierre Marshall was making is that in order to treat with that, we simply cannot take all of them and make them established public servants for the simple reason that it will bankrupt the government. It will not be sustainable. So the discussion, the partnership, the compromise has to essentially be how we improve the terms and conditions of these persons' employment as close as possible to that of established workers in a manner that is sustainable. And that involves a number of things. How we agree on a pension formula for them, for example. How we agree on the vacation, etc., etc., etc. So that is what the process.
Did he say it's not sustainable? and it will bankrupt the country. Maybe that's why we're bankrupt now. But former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell, over and over again, said it. He said it will bankrupt the country. But Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell alone didn't come forward and admit that. Attorney General Cindy Daughter finally came forward and said in the Senate, let's be straight up with the people, giving them the facts.
But let's be straight. We're going to be straight with the nation. Contract work and pension reform must go together. Because we commit to pay the retroactive pension, and we are doing so. We understand the import of the ruling of the court. But so as not to do severe damage, perhaps even irreparable damage to our economy in the long run, we must work out a pension plan going forward that's sustainable. Because as it stands now, when people retire, they are entitled to NIS, that's public servants I mean, they are entitled to NIS plus government pension, and government pension is a non-contributory pension, which means the government alone pays everything into the pension fund, plus under the NIS law, the government pays 6% into the NIS, into the National Insurance Fund. So going forward, that will be a really hefty sum that the IMF and everybody else have already warned is not sustainable going forward as it is. Plus, if we regularize contract workers across the board without at the same time treating with pension reform, what do? We bloat the public service. We expand the public service, and in so doing, the amount of people who would be eligible for pension.
You see, they didn't tell the workers that they couldn't do it. After they got the votes, we still end up with two public service. One said that's under the 1958 pension plan, and the other said that are temporary, that are not regularized, they are under the new SUSU plan. Anyway, we need to know about the board of trustees that was supposed to overlook the monies for this SUSU plan. We hear nothing about that since, but we need to find out. They never told the workers that. We have one public service. We're going to regularize everybody after 12 months by the stroke of a pen, right? But the Prime Minister, as I said, the former Prime Minister, Dr. Mitchell, did warn that this was going to happen, right? He told us, and that is Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, told us that spending monies on concrete is non-productive.
So we have to ask ourselves, if we spend a significant portion of our resources in the non-productive sector, and that is exactly what concrete and steel is, non-productive. If we invest the vast majority of our resources in those areas, how are we going to grow the economy? How are we going to grow our GDP? How are we going to increase production in agriculture, in fishing, in manufacturing, in the digital economy? We are not going to. Because spending money on concrete and steel does not result in the medium or long-term growth of your economy. And it is compounded when you are borrowing to do so. The budget statement clearly says that there is a deficit of close to $100 million In simple terms, the government intends to spend more than it can earn by at least $100 million. And where is this financing going to come from? It's going to borrow to do so. And our debt to GDP ratio stands at 70%. And if you look at the budgetary allocation, 34% of the entire budget, 34% is being spent to pay debt. And yet, you will present a budget that puts you in a position where you are going to borrow another $100 million. And you say to the people of Grenada, oh, borrowing is sustainable. Citizens of Grenada, borrowing on an individual level, when you cannot repay, is not sustainable. Those of us who go to a bank for a loan knows that the bank will not give you the loan if you cannot pay back the loan. And you know if you cannot pay back the loan, it spells disaster for you. You will lose your house. You will lose your car. It is the same thing on a national level. If our government continuously spends more than it receives and borrows to finance the difference, we will continuously be in a position where the vast majority of our resources are spent trying to repay unsustainable debt.
You wait. You're going to hear about borrowing for a budget when they come with their $2 billion budget. You hold on. Just hold on. So, it is safe to say that we have a non-productive administration because all they could tell us about is the roads and the slipper drains and the box drains that they've built, right? However, if you can beat them, train them. Here is the Prime Minister showing his concrete drains in St. David's, the most ever in 150 years. Yeah.
I said we've constructed more drains, retaining walls and culverts in 6 to 8 months than I've been doing in 150 years. The next step is just to scrape and do the road. I actually think we start. I'm not so sure why we...
So, what we have to show, concrete, right? Non-productive. How visionary is that? So when the party gets into office, into power, and they behave a certain way, did the thought ever come to mind who fund the party?
So when a party gets into power and they behave a certain way, and you can't understand why they're behaving, did the thought ever cross your mind to ask who funded the big rally and the big fete and the jump up? And how do you know that the decisions that seems baffling to you as a citizen may not be decisions that are made in the interest of the people who funded the rallies and the big fete that we went to and jump up and have a good time? If we had laws that says limited, for example, the amount of funding that any individual could give to a political party, if we had laws that said a political party had to report every cent that it got in donations and publish it, our politics will change overnight. But we don't have those laws. And we're not clamoring for it. We don't even seem interested. The OS report talked about that after.
So you're a lawyer. Where are those laws, Prime Minister? Have you put such laws in place since you've been in office? 3.5 years. Where are those laws? Let's hear you on. No, let me not say that. Just come in after and say, where are those laws?
I come lastly to the Kowana Bay site. This site formerly housed the hotel known as Flamboyant Hotel. And subsequent to the closure of the Flamboyant Hotel, was transferred by the government of Grenada, not via leasehold, which is what Flamboyant Hotel had, but via freehold to the development company True Blue Bay Development Limited, which is the company that created the Kowana Bay project and had an approved CBI status for that project. As the nation well knows, not too long ago, the former administration led by Dr. Mitchell and the developer Kowana Bay had a very public and unfortunate falling out. And this led to the developer taking the state of Grenada to arbitration before the International Court for the Settlement of Investment Disputes, known as, in short, ICSID, and sued the state of Grenada for several tens of millions of dollars. And the site became a white elephant. The construction ceased. The site was closed down and it has sat there for the last 2 years or more. Upon assuming office, the government took the decision that we could not simply allow perhaps what is one of the most spectacular sites on Grandlands Beach, and certainly the most spectacular view, to become a white elephant dominating the landscape at that end of Grandlands Beach, Monterey area. And so for a protracted period of time, the government, first led by a cabinet-approved committee, and I want to stop here and signal our gratitude to that committee. The committee was led by Mr. Richard Duncan, and it included Ms. Leslie Ann Sion, Mr. Hassan Hadid, and Mr. Henry Joseph. They led the negotiations initially to try and see how this matter could be resolved. And I want to thank them for the time and effort that they put into this matter, because although it was not resolved under their watch, specifically, they certainly contributed significantly towards advancing the matter. In summary, the government made the decision to acquire the site so that we could, in fact, put ourselves in a position to have fresh negotiations with a new developer so that this project could, in fact, be completed successfully, so that construction could resume, so that several hundreds of Grenadians who were once working on the site and who became unemployed as a result of the construction site closing could look forward to resumption of work on the site, to resumption of employment, and ultimately to a hotel actually being completed on the site. So the government has acquired the site. It has acquired the site at a cost of $22 million US. We will be making the necessary payments between now and next year to the main owner of the site. The result of this is that the arbitration proceedings between the developer and the state of Grenada has come to an end. And we are happy to report that because the legal fees associated with defending the ICSID arbitration was running the people of Grenada into the several hundreds of thousands of US dollars, if not, it had already reached millions of US dollars in legal fees for a dispute that we felt was certainly not necessary and one that was created and should never have happened in the first place. Having acquired the site, the government is currently engaged in significant and advanced discussions with potential developers over their taking over the site to resume construction. At this stage, we have not yet concluded a definitive deal, but we feel quite optimistic that we would be in a position to come back shortly to announce the conclusion of this definitive deal.
So when you're jumping up in a rally and in an election, we don't know who funding it. What we know is that 22 million USD of our money was given to a client. And we were left holding the bag, the empty bag, but we still have to pay 15 investors. So we have to pay the debt, right? And what we do know is that the white elephant is still standing on the hill and on the best part of the Grandlands Beach. And the construction workers are still without the jobs that they were promised work would resume and the construction workers will get back their job. They're still without that job. Right? Yes, all you're good. Grenada, nice, nice, nice. Then he promised zero rating in internet supply.
There is one item that we also wish to publicly call for a zero rating of, not just on a 12-month basis, but on a permanent basis. And that item is internet supply or data supply. We live in 2022. We must begin to transform Grenada by engaging in fiscal policies that encourage the areas that we wish to develop and to transform Grenada by. Information technology, without doubt, is one of those areas. Given the fact that COVID-19 has brought widespread disruption to the way in which we educate our children and to the way in which we work, it is absolutely crucial for each citizen of Grenada, young, student, old, working, retired, to have access to reliable and affordable data. And therefore, removing VAT or zero rating, VAT on the provision of data and internet services will go a long way in ensuring that we make the supply of internet service to all our citizens of Grenada cheaper and more affordable. And so the National Democratic Congress will zero rate internet and data services throughout the length and breadth of Grenada.
The parents of the students of Form 1 and 2 at the secondary schools on the island would have really appreciated that zero rating. One clinic, health clinic in every constituency with a pharmacy attached.
So if I stand here without the document, without the computer, and I come to you and I say, the National Democratic Congress intends to ensure that there is at least one health center in every parish that operates 24 hours a day, and that there is at least one pharmacy either connected to the healthcare center or a private pharmacy that operates 24 hours a day in each parish. And you like the idea and you clap. Will you call it a pie in the sky idea?
Yes, I would call it a pie in the sky idea, even if I clap. He promised to break the cycle of nepotism and the victimization and to hire by merit.
But getting back to the main point, we need to run our country based on merit, based on hard work, based on the desire and the willingness to overcome and to find solutions to the challenges that face us. We will not move forward or prosper as a people if the sole basis for job selection, for promotion, for the award of contracts is party loyalty or personal loyalty. If we continue with this approach, we will be doing ourselves and the several generations of Grenadians to come a huge disfavor. And so under my leadership, I intend to break that vicious cycle of nepotism.
Mouth open, word jump out.
We need to know one another. They have senior members and junior members and those who just joined. We need to know that all of us belongs to the National Democratic Congress. So we can't just argue and fight for what I will get, what I will get, what I will get, when you don't know your people. So sometimes the reason the other side getting is because we're not saying who are the real NDC people who need to get, because we don't know one another enough. So if we are telling the MP or the caretaker, these are our people, and let's go see them or bring the people, then we will know each other better.
So he promised to break the vicious cycle, nepotism and victimization, and to work with merit. But then he tells us that some of us will starve. And he tells his people you have to divide to conquer. And some of us will eat. Those of us who don't support the NDC shall starve. The NNP had a $15 cap on the gas. And the NDC said that that was not enough.
Just one final issue, which is that of the gas price. The proposed cap on gas at $15 per gallon still leaves Grenada, because the $15, traditionally the price of fuel in PT Market and Carleton is even higher. And the minister has made no reference to what the cap will be for PT Market and Tariki. And so we are still awaiting that announcement, because I'm sure our fellow citizens in PT Market and Tariki are also awaiting that announcement. And while we are on that, citizens of Grenada, you should be aware that there is no gas station in PT Market. There is no gas station in PT Market. So citizens of PT Market have the added burden of having to go to Carrefour every time to get gasoline. And on a jetty that is not fit for human occupation and use. A jetty that is inherently dangerous. No budgetary allocation has been made to address the public jetty in PT Market. So the $15 cap will still leave us paying more for gas than St. Lucia, which is at $13.95 per gallon, Barbados, which is at $14.92 per gallon, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is at $14.17 per gallon, St. Kitts, which is at $14.03 per gallon, and Dominica, which is at $13.90 per gallon. Citizens of Grenada, our government collects $5.50 in tax revenue on every gallon of gasoline sold. If it was truly concerned about the high cost of living, and given how fundamental petrol is to that process, it would have said not only will we tax the price, but we reduce the tax on fuel consumption.
So how much taxes, Prime Minister, your government collecting on each gallon? The same 5, right? You condemned the $15 cap and you removed it. Never told us, but sneakily from your ministry, the government of Grenada, right? The Ministry of Finance, right? You know, I think it's every 18th of the month, around sort of something with the Wednesday, it's you give us the gas price, the new gas price, right? And in the fine prints, folks, listen to this. The Ministry of Finance continues to monitor petroleum product prices and will intervene as necessary if prices exceed $17. Yeah. So you remove the 15 and you bring it up to 17 without telling us. But it's there. You run your mouth on the 15th, it wouldn't help. You remove the cap and you put it to 17. And the $5 tax is still on every gallon of gas. You have done nothing, you made it worse. All talk, my people, all talk, all the visionary, all talk is just that is what it is, all talk. Listen, my people are having issues in travel, I'll just go ahead and lease 2 planes. The 2 planes.
As far as I'm concerned, if by October and November we don't have an arrangement where us as leaders in the OECS are prepared to do that, then it means that Grenada has to go and lease 2 planes so that we can fly between Grenada and Barbados, Grenada and Trinidad. We will have to do so.
I don't know. I didn't realize we'd have to get permission from these islands to fly between them.
It requires cooperation from all the region because you can't just fly between Grenada and Carriacou. You have to fly Barbados, St. Vincent, so you need all of the islands to take part. You need all of the islands to be prepared to give the airline operator the rights to fly into their country. And if you don't have those things in place, air travel isn't going to come now. But it requires regional cooperation. It's not something that an individual island can do alone. Even if we bought a plane, we need the rights to travel into other islands, right? And we don't have enough traffic. 100,000 people, we simply don't have enough traffic to maintain a commercial airline that just carries people.
But it was your idea. Your idea. Nobody asked you to know, but it was your idea to just buy 2 planes or lease 2 planes and for us, for Grenadians. Mouth open, word jump out. Farmers, rest assured.
Is the farmer. So I want to assure the farmers that the National Democratic Congress is committed to strengthening the police's ability to treat with predial larceny. We are committed to ensuring that technology is used to assist with fighting predial larceny. And finally, we are committed to ensuring that the law and the minimum sentences that can be imposed for predial larceny offenses are in fact increased. So you can rest assured of that.
Bang does bust, Susu don't bust.
You could call me Susu. I will accept the Susu because I am going to help the people of Grenada to put the little 1-1 money together and ensure that we can give it to the next person and improve their lives. So as I said in Rukane Junction last night, and I want you to join me in the chant, bang does bust, but Susu doesn't. Bang does bust, but Susu doesn't. Bang does bust, but Susu doesn't. So take Susu in you.
Take Susu in you. But I have news for you, Prime Minister. Susu does bust. All the time. Because when somebody decided taking their money and they go in and they ain't paying for the Susu bust. The leader of the NDC, Baby Jesus, say, take Susu in you. He spoke of wastage with the government renting properties all over the place.
Around Sotes, you will see significant buildings in a dilapidated state that is owned by the people and state of Grenada. The government has in St. George's. The government has failed to maintain it, has failed to invest in those buildings, and instead it is renting properties all over the place. It is renting properties all over the place.
Almost don't make any sense.
It makes absolutely no sense. All right, so you have significant wastage in those areas because there's no rationalization as to how you use government services itself. And it is sad because to me, if we invest in properties that are already owned by the state, right, and we can maintain these properties, it allows the state itself to use them, and it allows the state to rent some of these buildings to private citizens so that the state itself can get revenue, right? And that we can then invest in things like our police stations, which are in terrible conditions. Right? Our healthcare centers, which in many instances need significant upgrading. So those
Yes, the monies for the pickup trucks could have been invested in our healthcare, service. Folks, the Prime Minister's residence, where all of the previous prime ministers lived while in office, or there in Mount Royal, it is now abandoned by our present Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, because the area is not of Prime Minister's class. And the view is looking down on the people of River Road and Darbo. Most definitely, we can't have that. Instead of living there, The Prime Minister's residence belonged to the government of Grenada. He went and rent a property, costing the government and people of Grenada $20,500 a month. He's a bachelor.
We bring to any situation in life that we ourselves are in, who we are, our standard and quality. And if we have none, we will bring that too. We have had lots of low-class people with access to social media who feel Mount Royal is fit for a prime minister to reside in as it is. You should ask the government to let you stay there because it is vacant now. That place has for years outlived its usefulness. Has any of you who are today talking about the current Prime Minister's decision to not relocate to that Labast, overlooking Darbo, Mount Rush, River Road, Queen's Park, taken an objective look at it to see if you have a dog, if you will, that you really love, that you would allow to live there right now as it is? What obtained prior to June 23rd, 2022 may have been suited for that place. But since the commencement of transformation, it is obsolete. The entire grounds are always overgrown, as if to indicate that beasts live there. So you have to hunt for them. Ha, ha, ha. As we say, joke day. Anyone who knows the humble man that our current Prime Minister is, you would know that he's also classy. And his successes as a lawyer support his high standard of living and quality of life. Even though he lived on St. John's Street, a building he owns, necessity and practicality contributed to him electing to live there as a private citizen. Of course, the high quality of the internal environment made it pleasing to him and his children. He is now the Prime Minister, and for security reasons, it is not practical for him to continue to live there. That is an undisputed fact. If you have your nice environment living in all the time, for reasons that are convenient to you, but you were in a similar position to the current Prime Minister, elected to office, would you mindlessly relocate to a broth house? A house where intelligence tells you all sorts of unsavory things used to go on, and for many years? You gotta be out of your cotton-picking mind. Apart from that, when you see where this place is and what it has come to since after Sir Eric's years of living there, government should have parted ways with that location a long time now. I recall saying years ago, and only recently repeated, that no individual citizen should outclass the residences of our Governor General and our Prime Minister.
Do you know what took place in the mansion on the hill in Grandance above the Mount Cinnamon property? Do you know what took place there? So he rented a place, wasting the government money, because he said, if you have government buildings, why waste money renting, right? So he rented a place, wasting $20,500 a month of government money up on the hill, looking over the Mount Cinnamon Hill property with a panoramic view to die for. Don't that Mount Rush and River Road and Darbo, a man of class. The Prime Minister waited 7 months for that property up in the south, in Grandance, 7 months for it to be renovated. Why couldn't he have waited that 7 months for the Mount Royal property to be renovated? Hmm? But he can't live there. That's not that place hard to pass through there. You passing through San Souci, not a place of class, right? On DM the PM, when the Prime Minister was asked about the renovations of that property, this is what he had to say.
Good evening.
Good
And
evening.
good evening to the Honorable Prime Minister. I have a question, but if someone already asked it, sorry about that. I just tuned in.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to know the present condition of the Prime Minister residence in Patusi. Could you give us an update on that building and what is taking place there, and how soon you will be renovating or going there in the future? I'd just like to know.
Thank you.
Right, so thank you, caller, for the question. The building is carded for renovation. We are hoping that the renovation can commence this year. The team from the Ministry of Infrastructure has been working on improvements to the architectural design and to general renovation. As you may be aware, when we assumed office, the building was not livable. It appears as if it had not been lived in for quite a while, outside of the what I would call outer buildings that the security detail was using. The main building itself was not functional, and so it requires some significant work to make it functional, not just for whoever will hold the office of Prime Minister, but all of the support staff that will come with it, the security detail, housekeepers, etc. We are hoping the renovation is, at least from the architectural design, it's mostly internal changes and some additional amenities. We are hoping that the residence can be used as an official meeting place, because as it stands now, for example, if you have large visiting foreign delegations, based on the current construct of the ministerial complex, there's literally no place to house them, outside of the cabinet room, which to some extent is also a bit cumbersome because you have one significant large table in there to all the chairs around. So we are hoping that we can actually have dedicated space where if you are visiting foreign nationals, other heads of state, you can host the meetings there, both in terms of the ceremonial aspect, the working aspect, and if necessary that, a prime minister also visiting from another country needs a room to sleep over in the night, that we can afford some basic amenities of statehood for visiting colleagues. So hopefully the work will commence, and we expect that once it commences, within 12 months, it should be complete.
Old talk, but it would be applicable for foreign nationals and heads of state to stay. But he's above that. Remember, he lined them up down on the roundabout and marched past them as I am the king. Here's the king in his African outfit. They're all beneath him, so they could stay up there if he come and they need a place to stay. But that's not for him. He's above that, folks. We'll continue through the visionary eyes of Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell at our next episode. Folks, we'll take a break here, and when I come back, I'll be chatting with Dr. Justin Pierre. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back. Welcome back. And as mentioned before, I have a special guest on today with me on Simon Says, Dr. Justin Pierre. And he's going to come to talk to us about the St. Vincent and the Grenadines election. Dr. Pierre?
Good day, Jenny. Thank you for having me here. Good day to all my Grenadians supporters. And as I said, I'm from Grenada, so I always like to be part of the Grenada discussion.
Yes, welcome, Dr. Pierre, to Simon Says. This is your first time on the world famous Simon Says.
Yes.
Welcome. First, I want to ask you to tell us about yourself. Tell us about you, because you're becoming very famous too now. So, for those who don't know, Tell us about
Okay.
Dr. Justin Pierre.
Right, good. So I'm from the beautiful village or the city of Fontenoy. I was born in Grenada, grew up in Fontenoy. Those who may not know Fontenoy, when we grew up, it was like a very tough neighborhood, and over the years, the Fontenoy has transformed. I went to other primary school, and then my formative years I went to Grenada Boys Secondary School. Left Grenada Boys Secondary School, went away to study for 2 years in Trinidad. Then I came back to Grenada. I worked with an organization called the National Insurance Scheme. I went to Cable and Wireless. I worked in Cable and Wireless, and then in early '87, I went to lived in Canada. So I've been living in Canada for almost 40 years. Most of my life, I lived in Canada. A brief visit. I came back to Grenada for a short while. Then I went to my and I work now as a company Canada Limited, and we are a research firm, and we conduct research on basically social research into labor market needs assessment, surveys, statistics. We also do a lot of work in the TVET side, which is called technical vocational education and training. And those persons who are living in the Grenada and the Caribbean, you may hear things about like the CVQ, the Caribbean Vocational Qualification, the NVQ, the National Vocational Qualification, CARICOM TVET strategy. All of that came from our doing. So we have a very strong footprint in the Caribbean. We do a lot of work for most of the international agencies, the Caribbean Development Bank, the OAS, the OECS, many governments in the region. So we have been doing a lot of work. We are pretty good at what we do, and what gives us the edge is that we collect data. So we are the largest collector of data on the Black population, what we call Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC data. So we have that. So in our database, we have about maybe 60 million people. We ask persons about 200 questions, and people from all over the world, come into our portal, answer these questions. We have a bot that will ask them questions over maybe a 6 months period, who you are, what you do, how old you are, what education you have, all different types of questions. And we collect those questions and we write insights on these questions. And many of the larger organizations will come to us and get information about people. For example, for example, an airline may ask us where certain people will travel. We'll provide that type of information for them, and any type of labor market or migration or vocational skills questions. So this is basically, in a nutshell, what we do.
What you do. Yeah. Recently, though, Dr. Pear, your credentials are
Yes.
being questioned. You've made the front page of one of our local print media online, published
Yes.
online a couple of times, for sure, and other
Yes.
articles. And
Yes.
there seemed to be a vendetta against you because even though you have had your university send your credentials, that is there in social media, you have posted your credentials, the vendetta continues. So, can you, for the benefit of my audience, zero in on your credential for us? And of course, we would put it up on our screen so that our viewers would have access to that as well. They can go in. So you don't have to get there like too in depth, but just give us,
Right.
fifth,
Okay.
your
So,
doctorate, whatever, for the purpose of my viewers and listeners.
well, thank you very much. Yeah. So, as I said, that I was, I've always had some sort of knowledge in statistics. When I went to the ILO, had a labor school, a training school, we got some knowledge into statistics. I got excited about it, and I've always kind of done that work. And then I worked, and then what happened is that I continue always had this yearning to collect data, and in 2004, after the Hurricane Ivan, a colleague of mine gave me a database of the entire population of a country. I would name the country, and that's how we first started to get those information. And because of my background in statistics, I took that further. And then in 2008, 2009, I went to I went to the University of Technology in Jamaica, and I did a master's in workforce development and education at the University of Technology. And with the University of Technology, even though I sort of honed my skills into statistics and data gathering, and in terms of TVET, skills development, all of that. So I've been doing that very well. And when I graduated, I had a mentor who took me and sort of honed my skills into research and data and surveys and all of that. And in 2000 and in 2015, 2016, I entered I applied to the University of Charisma University in the Turks and Caicos, new university, fourth or fifth cohort, and I went there, graduated, and graduated in 2019. Actually, that was the valedictorian. So I spent, as I tell people, you can do it, because I kind of literally studied 6 hours a day for like almost 5 years. So I became very good at data. I specialize in what is called labor market needs assessment. So I sort of research and studied everything on the World Bank portal about labor market skills development. So I became pretty good at it, and there were like many projects. We started to get into projects. We started winning projects, and so far we now maybe about 50% or 60% of most of the labor market projects, skills project in the Caribbean, we get them. We are very good on that, because we have a survey platform that is used by the same World Bank survey platform that we have, so we can get precise data on people, all of the social media, any type of data. We can find out, almost anything. We have a very good association with an organization in India that provides a lot of technical assets to us. And recently we started getting involved in the whole idea of psephology, which is the science of predicting election. And in 2018, we started doing that. So we're getting there. And so that's basically it. I have a PhD from the University of Charisma at the Turks and Caicos. And also I have a master's from the University of Technology in Jamaica. Thank you.
Okay, so then, Dr. Pierre, why this vendetta? Why is this maligning? Why is this threatening? What have you done? Because I must admit that you was on target so far. Case in point, the 2022 general elections here in Grenada, you were on point, you were on target, while most people thought that the NNP would get back in office. You called it. So why are you now being targeted like that?
Well, thank you very much. Okay, so maybe according to President Obama, maybe somewhere on the playing field, I took somebody marbles. They were upset about it, and they just have a vendetta against me. So I don't know. I don't know why I stopped playing marbles years ago. So what basically happened we conduct a lot of research in the science called of psephology. So psephology is the science of predicting elections. It's a combination of statistics, which we know very well, sociology, politics, mathematics, economics, and the use of social media. And since that we as a firm has the largest database of people in this part of the world, and with our relationship with India, who is the bedrock of psephology on conducting polling, we have a great advantage. So the technology we have at our firm, what we use, no other organization in Grenada or the Caribbean has that technology. All our technology comes from India, and India has been practicing the science of technology since in the 1980s. And when we met them, we said, hey, this is something that I would like to bring into the Caribbean, my country. I would like to bring into my country, etc. And we have a good relationship. We have an office in India, and we have a very good relationship with the Indian Institute of Technology and many other larger organizations. We don't know everything, but we rely on their support. So we have consistently predicted election. We have predicted 8 elections in a row. Okay, and including the 2022 elections, we have predicted the UNC elections in Trinidad, Guyana, Suriname, Jamaica, because we have the science that no one else in Grenada or no one else in the Caribbean, no university has a program, course on psephology. So we believe that we have an advantage, and that's why we are so precise. We make accurate decisions. And for people, I made I wrote an article about 2 articles. One article in terms of what will happen if an election was called now, and an article about the travels of the Prime Minister. And then someone called me and told me that he did not like the article. He did not like the article. What I did against the PM was not right. He does not like.
Dr. Pierre, we're talking there about Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell and Grenada, right? The Grenada election,
yes,
and the Grenada Prime Minister.
Yes.
Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell.
So this guy, this guy called me and said that he did not like what I said about the PM. Okay, he, in collaboration with some of his counterparts, they came, they started to write things about me, started to make allegations about me. They went on once. They said that, call me, just because I've known the person. I've never seen him in person, but I know the person, and because we have a common ecosystem. Okay, a common ecosystem. We as alumni of a school, we meet, and so I meet the person there, and also there was a guy who used to buy data from me. His name was Sam Latouche. He's deceased now. He lived in Dominica. He used to get data I used to sell data for him so that he can use it in Dominica. So we had this 2 person. We knew, 2 of us knew that person, and I thought everything was fine, but the person called me. The person taped me He taped me without my consent. I was not aware that I was being taped. Okay, he sent an email to me. I told him that he should not post the email. He posted the email. I was not aware of my of person interviewing me. I was not aware I was being interviewed, and no one told me I was being interviewed. And so it went on and on. Then I was saying, the person said that I all of a sudden there's a write up on me on the newspaper. Then there was a write up on me about my education and things that happened over 40 years. Write up on me. Then he went into my credentials, stating that I had no credentials. All my credentials were fake. Then he indicated that the university I went, the credential I had at the university was fake. Then he went to the stating that the university was fake and was not recognized. And so then we got the university involved. And now the university also has to save its reputation, also other legal implications in terms of defamation. And I mean, obviously, I guess the person knows that I would take legal action. I'm in the process of getting a lawyer now to kind of deal with this, because it has gotten out of hand. I've looked, anytime someone Google my name, all of the IP information comes up, all the email comes up. So I've over almost 100,000 people. Okay, it's very stressful. It's affecting my work. It is affecting my ability to earn income, and it has to stop. And I just say that this cannot go on for much longer. Therefore, as I said, there should be someone should advise this person not to do this. I believe, obviously, that it's politically motivated, okay, because it comes from a certain type of individuals, okay, and I don't want to call any organization name, but what the challenge I've been having is that certain persons within the organization, they have approached me. They have said, Dr. Pierre, we want you to write favorable things about us, or else. And I realized I'm seeing the or else now. And I said, I'm an academician. I write. I've done over 100 research reports in the labor market skills area. I think I've done more research in the last maybe 10 years than maybe any Grenadian. Okay. But no, I've written reports, election reports in April about Trinidad and Tobago, that the PNM will lose. Nobody treated me like that. But this is the first time I have had such type of vendetta against me, political victimization. And I believe that I do not want to be politically victimized, because if I am politically victimized, this will be a huge situation, because I would not take it lightly, because I know my avenue. I've reached out to certain authorities with regard to that. They told me that, hey, do what I have to do best, consult the lawyer, and then after you consult the lawyer, we will take it after. So that's it.
But Dr. Pierre, the damage has already been done. It's not if it continues. To me, the damage has been done. And are you saying that it was after you did the research article that you did on the Prime Minister of Grenada and his travels and the cost of his travels that you started to receive that type of victimization and that vendetta that you've experiencing now?
Right. Yes. So it is, and it is a it is not really we are in a democratic country. We have ability to speak. The information that I got is publicly available information. Every month we scrape all of the internet from the 26th of the month to the 2nd of the month. We scrape all the internet. We take all unstructured data from Grenada, from St. Lucia, from any other countries, 100 countries in the world, and bring these unstructured data in and make it structured, and we make the analysis. And with regard to the Prime Minister, we wrote the article because persons with after the after the issue with their radar, persons have reached out to us, provided information to us, and what we found out from our data, we found out that there were over 22,000 people, Grenadian, 22,000 people were concerned. They said, where is the leader? The leader is, they need the leader. The leader is traveling. Okay, he's out of the country too much. He is our supreme leader. He should be there to guide us. Should be there to tell us what to do. So people had issues relating to the radar, and they wanted to find out. So we wrote the article, and some persons from the NNP, some NNP colleague called me mad. Why would you write an article like that? You are giving the NDC too much of information. People from the NDC calling me and mad. Okay, so what could you do? But what this gentleman has done in terms of the things that he said about me, the defamation, we cannot leave it like that. Something has to happen.
Well, the thing is though, that I didn't need you to tell us that, and your company. I have spoken along those lines without the type of data that you and your company collects. I spoke several times of to that effect, where I spoke of the Prime Minister and his travels and him being out of the country so often and not being able to manage the 8 ministries, or 8 or 9 or 10, how much they are, that he presides over. And it is obvious that the country is suffering as a result. I mean, the Ministry of Infrastructure, we cannot survive without proper infrastructure. Look at the state we're in as we speak. Our infrastructure is in a really terrible state. A lot of unfinished projects, a lot of stalled projects, a lot of projects that are the one or two that are being worked on now are struggling through. And so the nation, the people can see for themselves and are well aware. So the data just confirmed a lot of things that a lot of us on this island are aware of. And as you said, 22,000 persons, right? According to your data. So, I mean, that there is a party's base. That's a base of a party. The NDC just has a little bit more than, I think, maybe 28,000, I think, is their real base. So that's a party's base. And so the concern should not be taken lightly. But to malign and to victimize and to threaten and all that stuff, this is not, we're not accustomed to that here on island. We're not accustomed to that in Grenada. Yes, some surrogates, some supporters get upset and we might be derogatory with their comments and so. But to take it to that level of even blackmail, really, because if I would say to you, write something good about us, write something good about the Prime Minister, or else, that is blackmail, and that's a crime.
And this is what this is the crux of the matter. Okay, I write, as I said, I write. I've done over 100 reports. I mean, most of the governments we do work for them. We have never had any challenge. We had not had any challenge. I do my work. I'm very good at what I do. Okay, you could ask anyone. I'm very good at what I do. However, I I feel threatened because I believe that my life and my reputation is at stake, because I feel that I am politically targeted, and it's a part of victimization, and that in itself, as I'm asking the leadership of the organization to take an assessment, this cannot happen. Okay, this cannot happen, and I would like them to stop. And today I received a letter from the gentleman. He wrote the letter to the university, one of the universities, another university that I attended, trying to get information from me. Again, I sent a letter to the university informing them that please do not give any information to the person. And in that letter, I've also copied a letter to the registrars of the various universities. And also, I copied the letter to the Royal Grenada Police Force and the cyber securities unit, because from my information, this is bordering bullying. It is bordering harassment. It's bordering a crime. Harassment. You know that we're in the United States, when people harass other persons, there is consequences, and this person has been harassing me every day, all type of times in the day. This person has been harassing me. I do not know if there is some mental issues or anything like that, but the person has been harassing me, and I'm telling the person, please stop, please stop, please stop. Let me get on with my business. I do not vote in Grenada. I've never voted in Grenada. I'm not affiliated with any political parties. All the political people can call me I'm a patriot. But please, sir, stop this.
But Dr. Pierre, the thing is, I don't know that you need a doctorate to be a pollster or to do the work that you're doing. You furthered your education and you got your doctorate, but you do not need, I don't even want to say in my opinion. What I know, because there are persons doing that type of work, maybe not at your level, but there are persons doing that type of work who don't hold a doctorate. So why is it bent on finding out your credentials and if they're legit and all of that, right? Um, if you're a journalist, you're an investigative journalist, do your investigation and see that what you're saying in your research and your data, if it's correct or not, and come up with that and said, look, your data is not correct. They always do that. They cannot fight the issues, they cannot fight the facts, and so they get personal. And this is very worrying and very bothersome, I must say. But Dr. Pierre, let us really move forward to what you are really here for, and to talk about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Their election is due on the 27th of
Yes,
November. That's
yes,
next week, 2025. And
yes,
you also had a document that came out recently, which I read and said that the incumbent, they're in for the fight of their lives, and really, and that it is a very close call, and that was what, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
yes, yes,
Following
yes,
the elections, I am looking at it, and it's looking like it's getting even closer in my mind to the position. I don't have
yes,
no data to show or to prove that they're leading, but just from what you're seeing in social media and the attendance of the rallies, I know that does not really count when it comes down to winning an election at the end of the day. However, the momentum, is with the opposition. I'm not sure
Yes.
if your company did anything more recent than the last 3 or so weeks, but tell us about St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Well, thank you again. As I said, we are in the field of psephology. Psephology is the science of predicting election, the accurate predictions of election. And we have, and getting deeper into this study, we have made, this will be our 9th successful prediction. And and not only hoping, but based on based on the data, we basically believe that the incumbent, the United Labour Party, will prevail for many reasons. Okay, the main reason is that the NDP had lost six times. The incumbent has an advantage. We also believe that when we conducted the study from October the 1st to October the 30th, we interviewed 2,402 persons on the from social media, from CAPI survey, in interviews. We had different interviews with them. We interviewed persons from the 15 different constituencies. We did, in terms of our methodology, in terms of our stratification. We had the population. We had our sample frame. We interviewed 1 in every 16 person in every constituency. So we got a very good cross section, and we segment the population based on age, based on income, based on region, based on gender. And we looked at what is called, in politics, there is something called a voters universe. So we looked at the voter universe, and we applied what is called, some of the statisticians may know that, something called data from the ISCO codes, the International Standard Classification of Occupations. So we base people based on occupations, the managers, the clerical workers. And what we see is, when we looked at the interview, when we looked at the persons in the ULP, 83% of persons said that who are ULP supporters, they will vote for the way they voted the last term and the term before, they will continue to vote. So 83% of ULP supporters will continue to vote for the ULP. So that's a strong base, compared to 73% of persons for the NDP. We also see that women in most of the Caribbean, and including St. Vincent, they have the largest percentage of persons who are are interested in voting. And 68% of all women said that they will vote for the ULP. Okay. Also, we found that on every characteristics, on every occupational classification, all the indicators, it is said that the people will vote for the UNC. We see that the ULP, we believe that the ULP will gain 8 plus 1 seat, and the NDP will gain either 7 plus 1 seat. Why we're saying that the ULP would win? The main reasons why we said that the ULP would win is because of what we have done. We did something called a confidence level. Okay, we analyzed. I said we use what is called Markov modeling to analyze the different confidence level. What the likelihood of persons to win a seat. And the strongest seat in the country is the North Central Windward constituency. That's the constituency of the Prime Minister. And that constituency has a 78% confidence level. So it's very, very difficult to beat Prime Minister Gonzalez in his seats. But also, when we look at the seats that has the highest confidence level, there are there are 5 seats with a confidence level over 70%. We have Central Leeward, North Windward, South Central Windward, East St. George. However, with the UNC, with the NDP, the Northern Grenadines, which is that of the opposition leader, Dr. Friday, it has a confidence level of 72%. So this is the only constituency within the within the NDP that has a confidence level over 70%. So that's one of the reasons why we are given the ULP their victory. Some challenges, some risk within the election. The main risk the ULP has is that there are a large section, and one of the largest section of the voting population, that is persons between the ages of 18 and 40. Most of the persons who are in the urban areas, the persons who are either unemployed, underemployed, or close to unemployment. 57% of these persons say that they most likely will go for the NDP. So this is the biggest risk they have. And obviously the Grenadines, the St. Vincent, the ULP will lose the both Grenadine seats. And this is one of their main reasons we are saying that the ULP would win. We also looked at what is called leadership, the characteristics of the leader. Which leader would you prefer? So we asked persons within the NDC, within the ULP and the NDP, tell me about your leader. Which leader would you favor? And what we have seen is that the majority of persons will favor the ULP over the NDP. So we asked them, okay, who would you trust more to manage the economy during global downturn? What did they say? Dr. Gonzalez, 62% compared to 38%. Who better represent the next generation? We have Gonzalez, 41%, Dr. Friday, 59%. Who will better handle international crisis or regional negotiation? 72% for Gonzalez, 26% for Friday. And the leadership section goes on and on and on. So we believe that the ULP has an advantage over the NDP. Thank you.
Okay, so they say a day in the life of politics is like a lifetime sometimes, right? So
Yes.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but as we'll see, it's not too far away again, and we'll see. But then, while you were doing this, giving us this data and this statistic there, it drew me back to Grenada and the first document that you put out recently, where you said if the elections was called now in Grenada, that the NNP would win 7 seats.
Yes.
Was it the NDC 6 and 2 for the movement? Was it that? Yeah, I think that's what it was. Now, what can you give me a breakdown like that? What you just did for St. Vincent, for Grenada, and how you came up at that with that kind of data?
Well, right. Okay then. So so for example, as I said, we have a lot of data. We have more data than, as I said, more data than any of the organization, and the NNP, the NDC, the MOVE. I mean, we have data on the population, and we have been collecting those data over. What we have done is to do a breakdown of of persons. We have persons within our database, Grenadians in our database, who respond to our questions. And what we have done is that we can look at persons from the data based on the constituencies. We can review persons based on the polling station. So we analyze people in terms of psychology based on the different polling station. There is something called it's called face recognition software, or other data that other third party uses. You can get that information to kind of identify who is, let's say, an NDP, a UNC, NNP, NDC. So you could use your data to find out who is an ND, who belongs to any political party. And also you ask them questions. You ask people how they feel from this year in 2022 compared to how they feel from today. And we know, for example, within the tongue of St. George, there is a high confidence level. Okay, it's almost like a 67% confidence level in the tongue of St. George for Peter David. Okay, you cannot get away with that. You don't have to shoot me or write something bad about me because I say that. Okay, it is very difficult to win Peter David, to beat Peter David in his constituency, because he has a very high confidence level. And also, obviously in the northwest, Dr. Keith Mitchell, very high confidence level. There are also a high confidence level in the South St. George with Mr. Andy Williams. He's very strong in the seat because of the work that he has done. So we ask people those questions, and within our analysis, we found out that the South St. Patrick's East and West, if election was called when we addressed it, these two seats will fall. One will go to the movement, one will go to the NNP, St. Andrews and St. Andrews Northwest, Northeast, and South St. George. And I stand by my predictions.
What did you say about St. Andrew Northeast?
Not the Mr. Lennox Andrews seat.
St. Andrew Northeast.
I think it's Lennox Andrews seat. I think it's Northeast. Let me just get I don't know how to have my notes, but the Lennox Andrews seat is the one in question. Yes, I think it's Northwest.
That means Southwest. Southwest. That's South.
Yes. Southwest. Sorry, Southwest. And we look at the data, we analyze the data. We wanted to find out what type of manual overrides we can do based on what their population is, what the population said, what the survey recommended. We sticking by our seat, and this is not an indictment against the NDC, but it's an opportunity for them to say, hey, look at the data, look at the stats, and let them do something about it, because they do not have the intelligence that we have to make an assessment. So take our information, use it. Okay, the NNP can take our information and use it. The movement can take our information and use it. But because I say that, do not criticize me, because you don't have the technology that we have. You do not have it. So why come against me because I say something that
Interestingly, I'm not hearing anything about St. David. What?
Yes, and David
what did
is
you come up with?
St. David is a very ticklish situation, and I say that with all due respect to the Prime Minister. I mean, I love him. He's a great guy. He's fit. He's very sexy. most of the people love him. Actually, I have a friend who is a judge, and I think there was some judges conference in Grenada, and she called me and said, Dr. Pierre, I saw your prime minister. I was so happy. I took the photos. I showed my husband. I mean, so everybody loves the prime minister. Okay, and which is good because it gives some sort of goodwill to the country. But however, we have to look at the what is called the opportunity cost, opportunity cost, and the we look at data, so we don't really talk as most people do. We're guided by data. So what we're seeing, okay, there's something called a political heat map. Okay, so every country has what is called a voters universe. So in Grenada, there are 18 levels, okay, of within the voter universe. And when you're collecting the data, when you're collecting the statistics, you have to touch on all of them. And we're saying there's a phenomenon in St. David's. So when we started from the data heat map in March of this year, February of this year, it was a total. St. David's was calm. St. David's was pretty normal. But after March, there's this candidate who was she's a part of the NNP, and she has been gaining momentum. And within 6 months, if you look at the trajectory, if you look at the data heat map, if you look to see the coordination of people when they go around, what is happening, she left from almost obscurity to almost 52% popularity rating in her constituency. Okay? The prime minister is still very popular. Nationally, he has a 67% likability rating. Okay, and that was done from our database from a survey of 11,000 people. So he has a likability. So he's still very liked. But what we've seen is that this woman, has taken up so much of stride and space on the PM, which is, for me, as a statistician, as somebody who is in terms of psephology, is a cause for concern. If I was a prime minister, I would have been cautious. I would have fight it back. I would have, be there and say, hey, this is my turf. I won that seat about over 1,500 votes last election, and there's no way this is my turf. But we find that this lady now is chopping away from the prime minister lead and chopping away from his influence. And this, I find, is really, really unique to see, and just from what is called the political data heat map. So we're seeing that, and this is why I see
interesting,
that
very interesting. And I had spoken to you after that document came out, and you did say to me that there are a few seats. I think it was like almost 5 seats that was too close to call.
Yes,
really, at this point as well.
St. John's was also too close to call, and other seats, because in terms of our model, so our computer model has a little bit of a flaw in it, and the flaw it cannot make assessment at this point in time under 200 votes. Okay. And what we're seeing is that there are a couple of seats that were too close to call, so we had to do what is called a manual override.
Okay, I could live with that. Dr. Pierre, I give you the floor now to for your final thoughts, your final comments before we wrap this up.
Yes. So what one of my other reasons here is that we are producing our market report, our research on St. Vincent. So this research would be the first ever psephological analysis on an election of a country. We are asking persons to get a copy of it. It is 96 pages. It goes into all of how we compile our data, all the methodology we have used, an analysis of each constituencies, the analysis of the leaders. It's very, very detailed. It's a good study for someone who wants to get involved in politics. It's a good study for anyone in statistics, anyone in social science. So it's very, very, very comprehensive. And we're asking the public to they should get a copy of that report. They can go into our website is dpbglobal.com. You go into the copy order report, you'll see a copy of the St. Vincent report. Also, if you go on the website dpbglobal.com, you will also see the analysis of the Grenada 2022 election survey. It's called 9-6. So you can also see that. And anyone who want to reach out to me, my email is cjustinepierre@gmail.com, cjustinepierre@gmail.com, or they can WhatsApp me at 647-966-4783, 647-966-4783. And we're looking for persons to get a copy of this report, because this report is basically gives people in the idea of psephology, what psephology is. Psephology is a new science. As I said, it has not been done in the Caribbean. No other organization has ever conducted a psephological study in the Caribbean. So it's groundbreaking, and we want persons to have a look at it, read it, and to get a good understanding of how you really run an election campaign, how you really, from beginning to end, what is the right way to run an election campaign. And this is one of the reasons why we do not let anyone hire us. We want to we go in the country, write a report, conduct the survey at our cost, and then we try to get people to buy the survey. Because if anyone hires us, as I mentioned in St. Vincent, if anyone hires us, the other party cannot win, okay? Or because it's a science, and we are trying to be very scientific. So once again, I want to thank you very much for having me on your show, for giving me an opportunity to explain myself. And I really appreciate that. I think tomorrow I'm going to one of on St. Vincent, some of the television station, and all of the other stations. But before I leave, I want to say something. What I want to say is that with regard to St. Vincent, I want to say that even though I say that the ULP will win, I have some major concerns. One of the concerns I have is that over the last 20 days, there have been a lot of shift in the political landscape. So what we found is that the NDP has overtaken the ULP on the social media campaign. So when we look at in terms of minutes, in social media language, you look at the minutes, the consumption of almost over 527,000 minutes of social media time, compared to the ULP of 355,000. So the NDP is winning the war, winning the battle on social media compared to their ULP. So that's just what I have to say, and that's what the data is telling us. Thank you.
Dr. Pierre, thanks again for coming on to Simon Says. We hope to have you back soon. Of course, we would have you here once a date is given for our elections. We do have another year and a half, I believe, to go.
Yes. Well, the election,
not sure.
the
The
election
prime ministers
should,
normally keep the bell in their pockets
well,
and walk around with it until they can't hold it anymore. So we wait and see. I am predicting that elections would be in 2026, and I'm also saying that it would be in the first quarter of 2026.
The
So
election
let's
has
see.
to
But
be,
if not, as I said, we have a year and some to go. And I hope to have you on here several times within that period
I want to say
as
that
things develop.
Yeah, I want to say that elections in Grenada, because our models, okay, our computer models is showing us that election in the longer the NDC stay before they have an election will be the worst for them. Okay, I predict that November or December 2026 should not go into 2027. Just as, for example, in 2022, our models, okay, our computer models indicated that the NNP should have had election between February 22nd and March the 5th. February 22nd and March the 5th, they should not have elections before after that. The longer they stayed having the election, it would be the worse for them. And they had election in June, was worse for them. If they had election in July, well, you know what would have happened. So anyway, that just, science, computer over human thinking. So once again, thank you very much for having me.
But that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It's always a pleasure conversing with you, trying to keep them honest. Thank you for viewing yet another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Denny Simon. See you next time. Same place, same time. Bye now. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.